Hi, lovelies! If you don't know who I am, my name is Yunin. I'm a kitchen witch and a death witch who's been practicing for 10 years, and this is my Q&A. Excuse the shitty audio. I don't actually have that great of a mic. What do you think, I make money selling my writing? Anyway, I'm answering questions based on what my followers have asked me on both Instagram and Tumblr. I wasn't able to answer all of them. I'm surprised I even got that many, to be honest. But I could answer a good few, and I get to show you some things that I normally can't show you when I'm just writing up answers on a post. So let's get started. This first question is from my favorite username ever. I killed a man, what? Asked, hey Yunin, what's your personal set of tools? Like, I need 2 jars minimum, a mortar and pestle, string, a poppet, etc., besides the occasional candle and herb vessels. Stuff that you need, or at a minimum for your practices or that you use regularly. So I'm interpreting this as if everything else just had to go away, if I had to lose, not that way, if I had to lose all of this shelves of stuff, all my herbs, what would I want to keep and use for my practice? First off, I think every death witch in the world has said this, but I would definitely want to keep graveyard dirt. It's very essential to the practice. I labeled these based on the graveyard that it comes from, by the way. So this one came from Mount Hope Cemetery. But I use it for protection powders and spirit communication and other powders and offerings and altar. I use it for a lot. I guess if we're counting jars, then I would kind of need some jars for this too, but I could just use a Ziploc bag, to be honest. I guess you could also say I use a lot of bones. This one's my favorite. It's my grounding bone. Look at it. If I had to choose between those and graveyard dirt, I would choose the graveyard dirt, personally. I think I can use it for many more things. The next tool that's essential to my practice is my baby. This is my mortar and pestle. It's made out of marble. That's how deep it is. It's kind of dirty. I've been mixing a lot of dirt in there lately. And it has very high walls. So it is very, very good. I use this to make a lot of magical salts and powders, like protection powders. Also, like, grind up herbs to make them easier to, smoke or burn or whatever. This mortar and pestle I only use for non-edible things. I mix a lot of graveyard dirt and sometimes even bone powder in here, which is very toxic. And when you mix stuff in here, it kind of gets ingrained into the marble. So I don't want to risk using it for cooking and getting bone powder in my lavender or something like that. I just keep this in my room and I just use it for witchcraft things that I don't eat. The next tool I most positively, definitely, absolutely need is a bowl to burn things in. This is a ceramic bowl. I guess most books would say that you need a cauldron, but this acts very similarly. It's just a fireproof bowl, and the way that its walls are shaped, it prevents a lot of sparks and dirt from coming out. So it's very useful to burn offerings or even burn incense. If you don't have an incense holder, just get one of these. I think this was $6. The next tool I use all the time is this athame. This is very, very old. I got it years ago from an Etsy shop. I'm going to unsheath it. The athame is a Wiccan's take on the black-handled knife. So it is not used for cutting, actually. It's actually, though it is double-sided, it is very, very dull. See, I can whack it on my hand and it's not even cutting me. That's how dull it is. It's used as an energy enhancer. So when you point it, it helps direct your energy and it amplifies it. It's like an amplifier for a guitar. So in a lot of Wiccan traditions, you use this to cast circles, and I also use it for summonings or any kind of spell. I actually handmade a wand, and that's very much used for the same purpose, but I like this better. I don't know, I feel like it's much more effective, and I'm very, very attached to this. It was one of the first Wiccan items I actually got myself. Right, next item that I absolutely need is my pendulum. I'll show you. This one's made of snowflake obsidian. It's a little bit calmer than regular obsidian, and it's a great stone of balance, and it's also good for death work. Basically, I use it and I just kind of get a tempo kind of like this, and I use it to communicate with either or questions or yes or no. I don't have a pendulum board. I just ask them simple questions. I love this because I can take it anywhere. I can use it anytime. I don't have to put myself in a trance or some shit to communicate with spirits. I can just bring this anywhere and go to a graveyard and just talk to him. I guess this next item isn't completely necessary, but I really do use it a lot. It's black salt. And I guess I can use any salt, really. Like, I have this giant thing of iodized salt. This is not used in our kitchen. We just have a tiny thing of salt for our kitchen. This is just used for my witchcraft. Black salt is really handy for negativity and for protection in spirit work. The way I get this to be such a dark black, I mix it with charcoal blocks that you normally use to burn herbs or burn essential oils if you don't have an essential oil diffuser. I use the old ones and I make it so it's this really bold, kind of powdery black. Next question. Marked by Moonlight asked, were you a closeted witch? If so, how did you handle keeping your practices secret? Yes, I was closeted for many, many years. And I had to use many different techniques. I first learned spirit work where I didn't really need supplies, but once I started getting into Wicca, I needed books and supplies, and I needed to hide them. So I have this baby. This is actually really heavy. I kept every single one of my witchcraft materials in here, and now I have several altars and an entire room full of things, and I just use this to store my spares. But I used to keep everything in here, and I would put, basically scrap or craft paper on the top, because I do a lot of art, and my family thought it was just a place for me to keep my art, and I can bring it to school. When in reality, I would keep everything in here, and then I would take everything out and set up an altar that, Gerald Gardner would be proud of. I was very traditional back then. And I would do everything when nobody was home, and then I'd put it all back in the box. For me, the hardest part was hiding incense, because when you burn incense in your room, it kind of stays in your room, and people can smell that. So I kind of just told my family that I'm really into an incense cleansing. My family, and especially my parents, are really into astrology and stones and crystal use, so they can kind of see where I was coming from without taking it as a weird satanic thing. Nectar Girl asked, what are your views on the rules of Wicca regarding witchcraft? This is going to be a really long answer. So Wicca impacted modern witchcraft more than a lot of practitioners would like to admit, to be honest. A lot of the rules that modern witches consider to be common sense were not actually common sense until Wicca introduced them in the mid-20th century. The most obvious example that people like to use for this is the introduction of the athame, which is very strictly a Wiccan tool. It's been transformed so much from the black-handled knife that it's really no longer a black-handled knife. But there are so many beginner Wiccan books that a lot of people who aren't Wiccan are using the athame anyway. Other examples include using witchcraft and magic as synonyms. They were not seen as synonyms up until the 20th century. They were seen as two different terms, with witchcraft being the much more negative of the two. Other examples is the idea that you can use magic with just power from within, whereas before that, magic was seen as something that you would have to gain power for if you weren't born seeing spirits or some shit like that. And then there's the idea, of course, of incorporating witchcraft into your daily tasks, and incorporating witchcraft as a form of worship that was not started until the Wiccan movement. So in that sense, you could say that the rules of Wicca are so ingrained in modern thought that they're no longer seen as Wiccan anymore. But when you talk about the rules of Wicca, I assume you mean the Law of Threefold and the Wiccan Rede. If you know Wicca, then you know Wicca doesn't have any kind of Bible or book. It doesn't have any written down rules. And though the Law of Threefold and the Wiccan Rede have become popular, there's still a lot of debate about how much they should be incorporated into witchcraft. There were a lot of rules that Gardner tried to instate into Wicca that nobody really followed. And then there was things like the Rede, which originally came out of a devotional poem from Doreen Valiente that was never supposed to be a rule, and yet became so popular that it became a rule of Wicca. A lot of Wiccans don't even practice the Wiccan Rede or even follow the Law of Three if they don't agree with it. I've even had a Wiccan tell me, I quote, "The Wiccan Rede is dying." So if you're asking my opinion about these rules in appliance to witchcraft, I think people need to calm down. A lot of the debate that surrounds these rules comes from taking these rules at face value, not really going into the theory or how they're actually applied, and also taking them way too seriously. Whether or not you follow these moral standards is completely up to you, whether you're Wiccan or not. Ayana H. asked, how do you incorporate death witchcraft into your daily tasks? Tarot cards, maybe? So, death work was not really affected as much by the New Age and Wiccan movement. There are a lot of reasons why that could have happened that I'm actually writing an article about. But, as a result, it wasn't really changed as much in the way that I just said, where you could make it to incorporate into your daily practice and everything. It simply wasn't designed to be incorporated into daily practice. But that doesn't stop me from trying. One of the few ways I make a very simple, kind of death witchy glamour is by using this soap called Black Beauty. I believe I mentioned this in a post. This is a face soap, but it literally looks like black ink. And you kind of use it in the shower of, like, you put it on and then think of whatever you want to die that day. Like any negative thoughts that you want to shed, it can do that. I got this from a store called Nature's Organics, and I got it with the idea that I was just going to use it like once or twice, and it would be a nice occasional ritual. I actually use it every day. It's actually really good for my face. Other ways to incorporate it into your daily life? Pendulums. I'm just saying. They're so easy to carry around and just ask someone a question. I do like to light candles every morning when I get ready, because I like starting off my day with light, and occasionally doing morning offerings, because it makes me thank, say, the spirits of the dead or my ancestors that I'm still alive, and it helps me put my priorities for the day into perspective. Sorry if I'm like shiny, by the way. The lights in here make it like really hot. I'm really sweating. Starburn Witch asked, hi Ewan, I would love to hear more about your writing process. I have read your zine, and you are so articulate, smart, and thoughtful when you write. She's so nice, thank you. I'm interested in hearing about your routine, how you get into your writing zone, techniques, your editing process, really anything you're willing to share about writing. So, I'm not going to go into zine making, because that process is so complex that it deserves its own video, but I can talk about writing. A fact about me that a lot of people don't know is that I've been in this professional writing business for a really long time. My first full-length novel I wrote when I was 13, and I've been writing consistently ever since then. So my writing schedule adjusted to school and all the other things that I had going on. So what I would do is just carry around a notebook, usually one that I decorate myself, like this. This is so old. It's fuzzy, but it doesn't look as pink as it did. Anyway, I carry around a notebook, and I usually write in the middle of the day. Not in the morning or night when things calm down. I know a lot of writers do that, but I just became so adjusted to getting in the writing zone during the day because I had no other time to do so. And the purpose of carrying around the notebook is that you write literally just whatever you want. Like, it doesn't matter if you're sitting in class and writing down, is so boring, I want to sleep, Latin sucks, screw the system. It doesn't matter if you're even complaining or if you're not writing a story. The point is that you're writing, and something will come out of it eventually if you keep doing it on a routine basis. Most of the ideas that I get from my zines, I get from asks to my blog. When I get very, very specific asks repeatedly, that means that a lot of people need to know it, or there aren't as many resources out there that are telling them the answer. In terms of my Death Witchcraft zine, I organized it in a way that I could answer some of the most basic questions and get people started off based on what people have been asking me and what people have been telling me about their routine and how they started and everything like that. It's very difficult to condense everything into, say, 30 pages or something for a zine to get people started, because there's so much information that I can include on this craft that I just don't have the money to be able to print. In terms of editing, I write everything by hand first, because I just work better writing by hand. Then I'll transfer it onto Google Docs or something, I'll edit it, and then I'll send it to somebody else, like my boyfriend, and he'll edit it. And then after a couple eyes have looked it over, seen that it makes sense and that there are no typos or anything, then I can start doing the layout and making the actual zine. Nectar Girl, oh, I got two of your asks. I didn't realize that. Nectar Girl asked, will you be doing something special for Halloween/Samhain? Are you preparing for it? Can you show us the stuff you'll use? I am already preparing for Samhain. Samhain is the biggest holiday in all of witchcraft by far. In Wicca, probably like Oster and Yule would compete, but like Samhain is like really big, especially for death witches who are focused on spirits of the dead. The veil really thins, not even just on that day, but in the weeks approaching it. It thins noticeably. So that means I'm gonna have to be dealing with like more chatter because I'm a medium and more spirit activity than I usually do. This means that I'm already preparing and setting up more wards. One is this protection powder. This is the strongest protection powder that I know how to make. It's mainly composed of graveyard dirt, but it smells like a bath bomb. I think it's the patchouli oil I put in it. I was mixing this last night and my boyfriend could like smell it from the living room. He was like, "You're either burning something or taking a shower." But yes, you scatter this around your property and it is just so effective against not only spirits, but thieves and people as well. Some other wards I like to put up are with the use of coffin nails that are very, very good for protection, and I love putting them in front of windows and doors. In terms of what I'm doing for Samhain, I have several ritual planned. There's a lot of work for my ancestors and a lot of necromancy rites that I want to reserve for that day. I will also be celebrating with my friend Jay, who is also a Wiccan, and we decided to do something together, but what that something is, we're not really sure yet. I really like the third part of this question. Do you like typical Halloween stuff, like decorations and pumpkins and black cats? I do like them, except when I go shopping for Halloween stuff, I normally just end up getting things that are gonna help my actual practice. So I usually end up getting like the skulls and the bones and the junk like that. No. Mavna submitted several questions, but I'm only gonna pick 2 of them. Have you had any really scary or intense astral experiences? This is by far the most requested question I got for this Q&A, was asking me to talk about spirit experiences and particular astral plane experiences. When I was originally learning spirit work, I learned by astral projecting and communicating with spirits on the astral plane. So there's a good 2 to 3 year period where that was my speciality. But I was very young during that period. I was just going into my teen years, and what I encountered was way more than I thought I could encounter. I did meet with a lot of like dangers to my health and abusive spirits and other things that I just wasn't old enough to handle. And when I told people outside of my witchcraft teacher and friends who were already involved, when I told people, they either reacted the wrong way or they didn't believe me. So I just stopped talking about it. And I haven't been talking about it for almost 10 years. I wish I had written it down more. Maybe it would be easier to talk about. And I do want to write about that experience in the future. I'm just not ready to talk about it right now. There's a lot that I didn't get to process because I didn't really get to think about it. I didn't get to talk about it with anyone. I didn't get to go to therapy for it. So I will write about it in the future. I'm just not ready yet. The last question, I want to end on a fun one that Mavna submitted. What are about 5 random non-witchy facts about you that most people don't know? I really like my melody. I collect a lot of my melody things. If you don't know, this is made by the same company that made Hello Kitty. And if you follow me on Instagram, then you've probably already seen a portion of the My Melody stuff I collect. I actually have another box that's already coming. Fact number 2, I have a lot of tea. I used to work in a spice and tea shop, which is how I learned to work with herbs. My best friend in San Francisco also worked in a tea shop. So when I went to visit her, she gave me a lot of tea. But we didn't have any way to store it, so she just gave it to us in plastic bags. So now I have this giant plastic bag. It looks like weed, but it's not weed, it's tea. I'll prove it to you. See, this is just tea. And I labeled it. Even just opening this bag just smells so good. I probably have like over 100 types of tea that I can brew. Fact number 3, I collect a lot of records. My grandfather, who died a couple years ago, used to collect quite a few records. And after he died, my father, along with his 2 other siblings, inherited about 9,000 records. So my dad gave both me and my brother a whole stereo. I have a record player and a stereo system with giant speakers in the living room. I have quite a few of my grandfather's records, and I like to play them. My grandfather also taught us a lot about jazz when we were young, so that tends to be my go-to music. Fact number 4, I write a lot of nonfiction about the deep web, and I do surf the deep web. I actually have a travel writing piece about the deep web that I would like to publish. I wrote it last year and it's already a little outdated. The sites on there just go out so quickly, and I don't actually really buy anything. I just kind of search, and I like to look at the culture. And fact 5, I really like crafting. I make a lot of my own stuff. I don't really talk about it on my blog. I do post about it on Instagram occasionally. I do like to say I made this box. This is actually a clip from Sanrio. I made that last night. I like to make a lot of my own stuff and decorate all my jars and things like that. And on the topic of art, I used to make quite a few art projects. I used to make about 30 in a year because I turned in a portfolio for school. Even though I'm a writing major, I'm not an art major, but I still made an entire portfolio. I have a ton of artworks that are multimedia on canvas and wood. I think I posted one on Instagram that was a devotional piece to Jetty. I'm trying to make one for Set as well, but I haven't worked on it in so long. I just it's been put on the back burner. Sorry, Set. That's all for questions. Quick announcement, I will be at San Diego Zine Fest on this Saturday on October 7th. I will only be boothing on Saturday, not on Sunday. And I will be there from 12 to 6 boothing, so if you want to come visit me, come take a selfie with me, come talk to me. I'm going to be selling free divination readings as well. You can be on my Instagram. It'll be great. I know a lot of you do not live near San Diego and cannot come. So for that weekend, if you buy any zine or any work from my shop, you will automatically get a free event-exclusive mini-zine along with it for the weekend of October 7th through 8th. Just order anything and I'll automatically give it to you. That's all. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you have a lovely day.